there, are you ready for horse ownership? What you need to know before you buy the horse, how to kind of get set up and get ready for that big step because it is a big commitment. Part two is going to be what kind of horse, right? So what breed, what age, what training level, what type, and just different topics within that. And then the third section, we'll talk about going to buy a horse, looking, navigating the many different ways that we can find horse ads these days with social media and apps on your phone, word of mouth, auctions, even adoption. So we'll kind of navigate that. And we'll talk about going to see the horse, things to look for physically, things, questions to ask, red flags to beware of, that kind of thing. So let's get started with are you ready? So a couple things there. Your experience. So I'm a big believer in getting around horses and taking some lessons, finding a equine professional that you're comfortable with, that you trust before you dive into horse ownership. Of course, sometimes we just kind of get tugged by our heartstrings and we jump in and we buy one of these guys and then we're, like, all right, now what? That's okay too. But if you have an equine professional to kind of guide you along in the process, it could help make it a little smoother, have to be a little more educated as you go. So one of the things I think that's really important is figuring out what you want to do in the horse world. If this is just a pleasure activity, if you just want to trail ride, spend time with your animals, or if you want to be on the competition side of things and go and compete and be a little more, I guess, serious on that side of things. That's really going to kind of depend on what kind of equine professional you're looking for. A competitive one or one that's more just based in more relaxed horsemanship, getting the relationship side of things. All right, lessons. I think it's great to go take some lessons. I think it'll tell you a lot about yourself. Have somebody evaluate your riding, and then you'll also kind of get a feel of what kind of horse fits you. So you have to know your own personality in order to know what kind of horse personality you might mesh with the best. So if you're a little bit more of a nervous, high energy kind of person, then perhaps a horse that is a little more calm that can balance your energy out would be more suitable. If you are the type of person who you might explain yourself to be more quiet, more introverted, maybe you need a horse that's a little bit more sensitive, maybe not the horse that's going to drag you around and take advantage of your quiet introvertedness. So just getting to know yourself in relationship with horses, how assertive you are, how assertive you are, and how, I would say, comfortable. Comfortable, I think, is a good word, right? Because some people are naturally just very comfortable, like just walk up and pet the thing. Other people are a little more timid, like how close do I need to get? Where should I pet him? Just knowing yourself is really going to be important for knowing what kind of horse you're going to get along the best with. So going and taking some lessons. I tell all of my clients not to be too narrow-minded when it comes to finding a trainer and taking lessons. I think it's great to go and try several different places. Go try several different trainers, several different disciplines, take lessons from a few different people. And yeah, there may be somebody that you jive with the best, that you enjoy their teaching style, but it's good to see kind of a broad range of different things that you can do in the horse world, because it's a really wide world of different things, horse disciplines, levels, activities, things that you can do. I mean, there's everything from, your $1,500 trail companion that lives in your backyard, all the way up to the $1 million, equine Olympic athletes. So it's a really broad range of things that you can do inside the horse world. Another big thing I think to think about before you go out and buy a horse is whether or not you're ready. Is this cutting out or are we okay, Matt? Can you guys hear me? Is that good? Okay. I think it's a long-term commitment. It may not be a long-term commitment if you decide to sell that horse, but I think you need to be prepared for it to be a long-time commitment. It's an animal. It's not a machine. You can't decide you don't like it anymore and put it in the garage and let it get covered in dust. It doesn't work that way. So you need to be prepared mentally, financially, as best as you can be for a commitment. You know, maybe even that horse's lifetime commitment, you know, especially if you get attached to one, or say it gets hurt and it's not rideable anymore and it's, you know, it needs to be retired early or something like that happens. So when you buy a horse, it's yours. There's no factory warranty. There's no, very rarely is there a return policy. So you need to be prepared to have a plan as far as how you're going to take care of that horse, where it's going to go. You know, just kind of have those things in the back of your mind. Make sure that you're taking the decision seriously and understanding that, you know, it is an animal, and you might be in a position where you need to care for it for its lifetime. You know, if that's what happens. So I think it's really smart to not only have a purchasing budget, but to have a monthly budget and to look at your finances and go, okay, this is what it's going to cost for boarding or for, you know, upkeep at my own home, if that's what we're going to do. And, you know, farrier, vet, you can ask an equine professional what the average, you know, monthly expenses for that is going to be at their barn. I can tell you that board around here in this county and close to it is going to be anywhere from probably $300 a month for pasture board all the way up to as high as $1,500 a month. That's some of the, you know, the more the places where they're going to offer stall board and indoor arenas and things like that. So there's that, there's farrier bills, and then that's kind of where we're going to get into what kind of horse do I need. You know, that's kind of going to step into that when you start to talk about budgets and those kind of things. You know, a horse that has really good feet and can go barefoot is going to cost you less at the farrier than a horse that's, you know, kind of got funky feet and needs to have corrective shoeing done. There's a big cost difference month to month in that. So, all right, let's say I'm ready for a horse, right? I've considered all this. I've got an equine professional to guide me, or I've done my research on my own. I feel well prepared. Now let's get into what kind of horse for me. Well, the biggest thing that you need to think about is what are you going to do with the horse? What's your plan? Are you going to trail ride it? Are you going to jump it? Are you going to do dressage, reining, roping, barrels? You know, what's your plan with this horse? What is the horse's purpose going to be? And from there, then we can start to look at some of those subcategories: training, breed, age, body type, you know, all those different kind of things. So once you've kind of figured out what discipline, the next big thing I ask people is, how often are you going to mess with this thing? Are you going to be an everyday rider, a 4 to 4 day a week rider, a 2 day a week rider, a 1 day a week rider, once a month? That's not, that doesn't work. Once a month rider. You know, how much time commitment do you have to this horse? You have to remember that you're pulling an animal out of a situation, out of a daily routine. And if you are going to be changing his situation to yours and changing his daily routine, that's probably going to affect him in a pretty big way, right? So let's say you go and you try a horse that's in 5 day a week training, being ridden regularly, 5 days a week, and then you take him home and you're going to ride him 1 day a week at your house and just ride him around in the field. Okay, you could have a big difference in how that horse behaves, how he rides, everything, going from the situation he was in to the situation he's in now. So you have to be aware of those things. You have to think about that, and what, you know, to me, I think that if somebody wants to trail ride once a week, they need to go look for a horse that's being trail ridden about once a week. It doesn't have to be exact, but it needs to be comparable, right? So that you're not swinging this horse from one situation to another, right? Like, you don't need to go buy a show horse who's in 5 day a week training. He's getting lunched in the morning and ridden for an hour and a half in the afternoon, and take him somewhere and go, okay, we're just going to go for a trail ride once a week, buddy. He may enjoy that, you know, and he may be like, ooh, this is a vacation, but is he going to keep his level of training? Is he going to keep his level of fitness? And then also mentally, if he's used to that kind of workload mentally, is he going to kind of come unraveled now that he's just twiddling his thumbs going, what am I supposed to do all day? You know, I've been doing this kind of workload and now I'm doing this workload. And then he's going to find things to do like, oh, what's that over there? You know, he's gonna find things to make his brain busy. And then you can kind of get into some trouble. So what are you gonna do with the horse? What discipline? And how much time are you gonna commit to the horse? Okay, two big things that I like everybody to kind of think about before we start narrowing down our search options. Okay, so then,
can I ask a question real quick?
Absolutely.
So based on that, what is your thought that one of the really popular horses are off the track thoroughbreds?
Ooh,
going to pasture ornaments or very once a week riding.
Okay, so personal opinion on off the track thoroughbreds, and you're going to see that in ads on Facebook, social media, all that kind of stuff describes as OTTBs. I think that there are a lot of really great thoroughbreds that come off the track and have great second careers as a lot of different things, spanning all the disciplines. I think that those horses, a lot of them have what's called a letdown period, which is where they bring them off the track. They've been in that kind of environment. They turn them out for a while. They let them kind of get back to there, and then they restart them, which means that we kind of start with groundwork and then riding, because you have to remember most thoroughbreds on a track are just taught to race. That's it. They don't know much else. They don't know how to go around an arena and do any type of great transitions. They know go faster, slow back down, turn left. Okay? So there's, I think off the track thoroughbreds, that's not any type of deal breaker or, oh no, I don't want that. I think you do your homework, you find an off the track thoroughbred who has been in a great rehab program, who's been well brought back into training, has been hopefully kind of restarted well. There's a lot of people around who do that make a lot of good money taking off the track thoroughbreds. Do I think that a beginner or a novice or even an intermediate rider needs to go find an off the track thoroughbred and try to do it yourself? No, probably not, unless you're under the very close guidance of somebody who's done it a lot. That breed just of itself can be kind of hard to handle. So I'm not opposed to it. You just need to be smart about it. Yeah. Any other questions about that? Yes. Okay. Yeah, that can be true. So her question was, I see a lot of ranch, like horses being described as ranch horses or working on a ranch in sale ads. And does that translate to being good trail horses? That's kind of a tricky one too. So here's a couple of things that I found about horses that come off of ranches. One, they work hard. They work hard all day and all day long, in and out, no matter the weather. That's kind of one of those things where they can be really, really broke and really go do my job, but they've been doing a job, a physical job day in and day out. That's kind of one of those things that I say, be wary of taking one of those, turning it out in your pasture and trying to ride it once a month. You know, that's a big change in environment and in workload. Now, as far as been worked a lot on a cattle ranch or, ranch broke, to me, I want to see videos of him riding in the arena or even in a pasture, and I want to see all of his transitions. I want to see him stop. I want to see him turn, because it's one thing for a horse to go in a straight line 12 miles a day. It's another thing for one to be able to do everything that I would like it to do in the arena or everything else. So that one can be a little tricky. To me, it's not one way or the other. I just need more information. Anybody else? All right, so okay, so let's talk about breeds, types, right? Depending on your discipline, and I don't really constrain breeds to certain disciplines. Now, if you want to go show in breed association shows, then obviously you're going to be constricted. If you want to go show American Quarter Horse Association shows, you're going to need an American Quarter Horse. If you want to go show Palomino, you got to have Palomino, paint, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But outside of that, if you want to do dressage on your 15-hand quarter horse, do dressage on your 15-hand quarter horse. You know, if he's happy doing that job and you like the way he feels doing that job, that's great. If you want to trail ride your warm blood, you know. It's more to me about, does the horse fit the job he's doing, and does he do it happy, and do you get along with him, you know? Now, a kid, let's say we got a 14-year-old kid who weighs 90 pounds soaking wet and is a advanced beginner rider. Does that kid need the 17-hand full of himself, you know, thoroughbred? No, probably not. With something more like a, you know, large pony or, you know, a small horse, kind of a been there, done that, you know, middle-aged, good citizen, be a little more appropriate as a learning mount for that kid? Yes, probably so. So really just, you know, there's all kinds of sayings in the horse world, like green on green means black and blue, and, you know, things about, don't, you know, that kind of stuff. To me, I'm really going to look at the horse's personality. I'm going to look at, I mean, a 5-year-old horse who has been ridden consistently for 3 of those 5 years may be just as broke as the 15-year-old horse who's only been ridden a couple times every month, you know? So you got to keep an open mind about that, and you got to look at what's in front of you, right? So you can put parameters on your age and your size and all of that, but don't make them hard limits, you know? Don't make them hard limits, because then you might, you know, the horse that's just a little bit out of those parameters, you might miss out on. He could have been the perfect one. I think everything should be proportional, like I was talking about with the kid. Now, if you're, you know, 6'2", and you know, you're probably not looking for a pony. You're probably looking for something that takes up your leg so that you can accurately use your cues, you know, because that just makes, you know, good general common sense. So the breeds, you know, light horses versus heavy horses, Arabians and thoroughbreds, quarter horses, Morgans, walking horses kind of in the middle, and then you got your heavier breeds like your drafts and your sport horses like your warm bloods. You know, just think about what you want to do with it, and what that horse's experience has been. Like I said, if you want a trail horse, don't go buy the Western Pleasure Show pony. Buy the trail horse. If you want to show dressage, you know, show something that's got, or, you know, go look at something that has a basis in dressage. That's going to kind of keep you on track, you know. And then, you know, what the job that makes the horse happy, you know. So, any questions about that? About what kinds of horses you might be looking for, breeds, disciplines, cross-discipline horses, anything like that? Yes, Megan. Yes.
Sorry, just to introduce these two.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? I have to have the mic. Okay. So this is what I should have said at the beginning when I came in. I came in on 2 wheels. These 2 horses. This is Dolly, and some of you already know Dolly, but you know too. And you can't hear me?
There.
Okay, sorry. So this is Dolly, and this was Kai's second horse. And she graduated from a fantastic babysitter type pony, and we needed a horse in a hurry, and we got an off-the-track thoroughbred, which was not a disaster, but it was just the wrong horse. And then we accidentally stumbled across Dolly, who was a terrible second horse, but she turned, you know, we love her, but she is an example of looks chill. Like, she looks really relaxed, but she's jet fuel. You'd never know this, that when you get on her, you're gonna be in the next county pretty quick. And so many broken bones. This is a classic example of green on green makes black and blue. And Max is my like later in life horse. He gets ridden once a month, maybe right now because I have an injury, but he's the same horse every time I get on him. And so that's why I bought him. And so that's just a good example of waiting and picking the right horse. He's a fox hunter. That's his job. And he was a lesson horse in his past life, but that's where I am in my life now. So anyway, I just wanted to introduce these horses, and this is my daughter Kai, who got forced into this tonight. But anyway, I just want to introduce the horses, and it's just a classic example of what you're talking about, the type. You know, the drafty type, the babysitter. He's a total babysitter, and she is not. You know, but she looks like a good girl, but she's deceiving.
All right, well, Megan gives me a great kind of leeway into kind of one of my next topics is when we go to buy the horse, right? Let's talk about, all right, I like this horse. I'm ready to go look. I've kind of got a list of what I'm looking for and, you know, what I want in the next horse that I'm going to buy. So let's start looking, right? Ads. Oh boy, the world of horse ads. Joy, is that fun, huh? All right, there's a lot of memes out there about horse ads, you guys. Okay, so obviously we have social media, right? We have social media, which has a lot of buy, sell, trade groups, that kind of thing. They have to be tricky because, you know, you can't put the price, can't sell animals on Facebook and that kind of thing. So sometimes they, you know, put the price, or it's like message me for the price, that kind of thing. I think social media has been a great tool for the world of horse marketing. Obviously, it's a great platform to get your information out there for buyers and sellers to find things. Downfalls of social media buying and selling of horses is that you don't know that person. You know, you don't know who they are, where they came from, if their word is good, if they're representing something, you know, truthfully or misrepresenting something. So just kind of a few real world tips for navigating social media horse buying. Try to look for people who know people that you know, right? So like maybe click on their name and see if you have any mutual friends, see where they are. If you're looking at horses in California, I hope you have the money to fly out there a couple times, you know, to really think that through. Maybe don't buy that horse and just have it shipped to you sight unseen, right? There's been people who didn't even get the horse that they thought they were going to get, right? So I would always, and if you don't know the person, but you know the area that they live in, get on Facebook. And there's, I mean, you guys know, like Nashville Area Equestrians and Tennessee Tack, and I mean, there's a bajillion Facebook groups for everywhere in the country. So find one of those Facebook groups and see if they're advertising that horse locally, you know, and then kind of read through the comments. Just kind of do your research a little bit. Ask for lots of videos and pictures, lots of videos and pictures. Don't be shy about that, you know, and if they kind of drag their feet and go, well, what's in the ad is what's in the ad. I'd like to have some more, please, you know. Confirmation pictures. Okay, so confirmation pictures, right? Some people include those in the ad. Some people say, hey, message me for that, right? I want to see at least 4. I want to see a front view. I want to see a view of the right side, left side, and a back view, okay? What I'm looking for when I get those confirmation pictures is the front view. I'm looking at the horse's legs. I'm going to see if they're straight all the way down through, from the shoulder all the way down through the hoof, you know, see if we have any, you know, deformities, see if we've got bad shoeing. And that, yes, I mean, it does take a practiced eye to see slight things, but if you get a picture of a horse and he's standing like this, there might be a problem, right? Just use your common sense. If he's standing like this, right? He's pointing this way and this way, may not be a good thing. If he's standing like this, right? Might be a problem there, okay? So just use your common sense, and there's names for all of this. We could go way deep into all the anatomical names for the different, you know, positions of pigeon-toed and everything else. But mainly, I'm just looking for a horse that's pretty straight. You know, he's got good, true legs in the front, and same in the back, right? So when I see the picture of the back of his legs, I just want nice, straight lines down through his legs, right? I don't want him like this in the hind end, right? And I don't want him like this in the hind end through the hocks. And then my side pictures, they're going to give me a really good idea of what the horse's general health is. I'm going to look at what his weight is. I'm going to look at what his coat looks like. You know, if it's, I mean, even in the winter, like these guys are fluffy, but I can tell that they're healthy. They haven't missed a meal. You know, and I can tell that they're pretty well cared for. I mean, even if they were muddy, I can still tell that their coats are soft, right? They're not, I can tell that the coat is fairly smooth, which is going to give me a pretty good idea that they don't have any fungus. You know, horses this time of year, this is rain rut season, right? And so if I see a horse's coat that has a bunch of bumps on it, I'm going to go, what's underneath the hair on that horse, you know? And I'm just going to get a good eyeful of the horse, you know? Is he bright-eyed, right? Is he standing there looking all glassy-eyed, dull, you know? Or does he look, well, hopefully I'm not seeing the white around his eyes. That may be a red flag. But does he look, you know, just healthy, you know? I mean, just a good, healthy horse, you know? What kind of condition is he in? What kind of condition are his feet in? You know, what do his hooves look like? Are they all split and cracked? You know, even a horse that's going barefoot, like these guys in the hind, you know, they're both barefoot on their feet. I don't know if you guys can see that from way up there, but they still look healthy, you know? And I mean, if a horse is a little overdue for a trim, if he's overdue by a couple of weeks, he's still going to look pretty healthy, you know? I mean, it's not like you get to the 6-week mark and their feet just go, you know? So I'm just going to look at him for general health. I'm also just going to take a couple, you know, confirmational notes about him, about how balanced he is. So like from the top of his wither, which is, you know, the top of his shoulder there, from his wither over to his hip, you know, if I was to put a straight line across the top of him, is there much angle to that? You know, I mean, a horse can be slightly uphill, a horse can be slightly downhill. A horse that's like dramatically uphill or downhill, that may be a little, you know, I'm just going to take note of that. I'm going to take note of that. I want to know how much shoulder versus hip a horse has. So like when I step back and look at Dolly here, I'm going to look at how much mass of the horse is in his shoulder versus back here in these hindquarters, right? And I'm just going to look at the horse's overall balance. Like, does this horse look fairly evenly balanced front to back? Does he have a massively huge shoulder and a real skimpy hind end? Or vice versa, is his shoulder really shallow and, you know, the hip is you know, just looking for a horse's general balance. How his neck kind of comes out of his shoulders, you know, how the shoulder, can I walk up to you? So how the shoulder angle is right here. So this line, I'm going to look and see what the shoulder angle is, if it's real vertical or if it's got a nice angle to it here. The more angle a horse has in his shoulder, the more freedom of movement, right? Now, if you're going to just be walking down the trail, yeah. He's built a whole plow. Yeah. he's built to be a strong guy. So those are some things I'm just going to take a look at in those conformational pictures and why it's so important to get those. Okay, videos. I want to see in a video everything the person claims the horse can do, right? Same if I go try a horse out in person. I want to see everything that you're claiming he can do. I would like to see it. And I want to see it with you riding them before I ever get on, okay? I'm not ever going to go get on a horse without watching the owner, the rider, the trainer ride this horse, okay? And that kind of leads us into, okay, questions to ask, right? Oh boy, there's a bunch of those. Question.
Rachel, real quick, as we're starting to look through Facebook ads for horses, are there any types of phrases or terms that you see that send off a red flag when somebody describes it as such? Maybe it's a good or bad thing.
Okay, all right. So Matt's asking about red flags in like those Facebook posts, sale ads, right? Some phrases and stuff. All right, let me think here. All right, so good things to know. Prospect means that it doesn't do that yet. So if it says it's a dressage prospect, it's a hunter jumper prospect, barrel racing prospect, blah, blah, blah. That means that it does not do that job yet. It potentially could. They're guessing that it might make a good fill in the blank, okay? So a prospect is not a horse that's finished in any way trained, okay? Another one that I see a lot is kid broke. Kid broke, kid broke, kid broke, husband broke. Those kind of things, take that with a grain of salt. So whose kid are we talking about? Are we talking about the kid who's never been on the horse? Or are we talking about your kid who's been riding since they were 3? You know, I mean, I got kids that I teach, and some of them are walk trot riders who ride the old Bubbas, and I got other ones on 4-year-old futurity horses warming them up for me. You know, it really depends on whose kid you're talking about, right? Kind of same thing with the husband broke tag. That's been a popular one here lately. You know, looking for that for the husband horse. It may very well be a safe husband horse, but I don't really believe anything until I see it. You know, I need to see it. I need to see the beginner rider on it. You know, you gotta kind of prove that one to me. Let's see, Matt. Other red flag words. Spirited. You know, take that one as you will. Let's see. Sometimes I see ads that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Megan makes a good point. So when I read an ad, I can tell a lot about how much the person who's selling the horse knows, you know? So like she was saying, like a strange height. So if somebody says that their horse is 14.6 hands, we got a problem, okay? Because hands only go up, it's only 4 inches is in a hand. So the tallest the horse can be is 14.3 hands, and then he goes up to a 15-hand horse. So things like that. And then, you know, I mean, you don't want to be too judgy about like the environment that the horse is in. You know, I mean, horses can be cared great for in all different types of environment, but you may want to just look at, you know, if the horse, you know, I mean, just I don't rule many out, because there's a lot of great horses that kind of come out of less than situations that I'm going to let the horse live in, and vice versa. There's a lot of horses that come out of big fancy show barns who are going to go be backyard pasture pets and going to be just as happy there. But I am going to look at, like sometimes I see pictures where they take the picture of the horse and the horse has a halter on that's like 2 times too small, you know, and I can tell that it's like digging into his name, you know, or something like that. Like I said, kind of like the rain rot kind of thing. Like you can visibly see that horse has rain rot. But in the ad, you know, I think professionalism says a lot. You know, use your punctuation, check your spelling. If you want to be, you know, serious about selling a horse, you know, then that kind of thing. You know, if it looks like the 13-year-old kid wrote it up on Snapchat and stuck it up there, then you know, you know, you got to kind of think about that a little bit. You know, and who's representing it. But I don't know, Megan, can you think of anything else in a Facebook ad that might be a red flag?
I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
Something I can't think of right now.
Well, and here's another thing. It's kind of funny how much information the ad has, because there's a lot of big time breeders, trainers who are just going to stick a picture up of the horse and going to put its registered name, its height, and its age and call it good. And what they're doing is they're banking on their reputation to come with the assumption that it's a quality horse, right? So just because you may not see a whole lot of information about a horse for sale in an ad like that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a quality horse. It may just mean that they are moving so many horses all the time that they're not going to make a big write-up about every horse that they put on there, you know. So I don't discount those ads, because there's a lot of places that just put minimal information up, and just based on their reputations, they're going to get interest. So, you know, so you never hurts to ask, you know, send them a message, you know, say, hey, can I have more information on this horse? Real quick, before we get away from that, I just want to touch on other sale venues other than just social media and word of mouth. Auctions and adopting, right? So auctions have kind of make a comeback lately. There for a long time, auctions, you know, really got a bad rap. And of late, with social media and advertising, auctions have kind of come back. I still think it's a good idea to use a reputable auction company. If you're gonna go to a small town auction, take a horse professional with you. There's always the chance when you go to an auction, you don't get to try the horse. You don't get to spend any time with it. There's no trials. The information that they give you is the information you've got, and you've just gotta kind of look at it. There's a big inherent risk with that. There's been really nice horses bought out of auctions. Just know that you're not gonna get as much time and information as you would in a private party. Take somebody who knows what they're doing with you. A really seasoned horse professional might be able to go to an auction and go, that one, that's a diamond in the rough, or that's a really good deal on a nice horse, or something like that. But I wouldn't suggest it for somebody who's novice in the horse business. Adopting, kind of the same thing. A lot of great adoption stories out there. Just be smart about it. Be smart about it. Take somebody with you who knows what they're looking for, who can just look at the animal, watch the animal go around and ride around, and just has a really good eye for quality horse flesh. And you also have to remember that a lot of horses that come out of adoption situations came out of bad situations. So also just keep that in mind. You might have some mental cobwebs and skeletons in the closet to deal with, horses coming out. Not all of them. Some of them are just, life got hard and they couldn't keep their horses anymore. That happens too. But some of those horses do come out of the bad situations. So keep that in mind too. It could be a big undertaking to do that. Any questions about, yes? Okay. So her question was, what is the expectation on health records for a horse? I think that's going to go into what type of, where you're buying the horse. So private party transactions, I would expect to get the entire vet record on that horse that's available. That's what I would expect. I would want to see all the vet records. If the horse has moved around a lot, that's kind of a little bit concerning in and of itself, but I want to see at least the past few years, of vet records. Now, auctions, adoptions, that kind of thing, probably not. You're probably not going to get any type of vet records. Well, I think it'd be a red flag. Yeah, I would take that as a red flag. Now, granted, most of the, I prefer word of mouth private party transactions for the most part. Most of the horses that we buy and sell are going to come from somebody we know, or at least knows somebody, not too far away from somebody that we know personally. Most of them are going to come, from areas where we know the vets, or we know a vet who knows a vet, right? I would say that if in a private party transaction, if you were seriously interested in the horse and they did not want to give up the health records, that would be a major red flag. Yes, because why wouldn't you? Why not? There's no benefit to keeping them unless there's something to hide, right? So now, if you are there on just your first time and it's the first question out of your mouth, they might say, well, let's wait until we get a little more serious. But if there's a contract, if there's a bill of sale being, or price pushed around and we're pretty serious far down the road of, all right, we really like, to purchase this horse, then yes, I'd like to see all the health records. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so this lady right here just just, was saying that at an auction, it's required for all the horses to have a Coggins. Uh-huh. Okay, so she's talking about like in an auction situation, if the horse comes in, it doesn't have a current negative Coggins, there'll be a vet on site to pull the negative Coggins. That to me, yeah, that's a great point. The horse having a negative Coggins is important, but as far as like auctions go, that's probably all you're gonna get. It's just that negative Coggins, or if he's papered, you know, you might get some papers out of it. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so pre-purchase exams, to me are, I do at least a minimal one every purchase. You know, to me, it's a great, it's not insurance, but boy, will it, you know, it's smart move, right? I don't think there is a minimum. To me, there's not like a rule on that as far as like a minimum. She's asking like if there's a minimum price point on the horse before you get a pre-purchase exam. To me, if you're a serious horse buyer and you're going to pay the money to buy the horse and then take care of the horse, which we all know that buying the horse is the cheapest part, right? So if you've already got set aside the money to do that and you've made that commitment, then why not spend the extra $200 to $500, depending on how, you know, in depth of a vet exam you want to go, to make sure that the horse is what the buyers represent it to be, that he's not on any type of, you know, drugs. He hasn't been sedated or anything like that. He doesn't have any pre-existing conditions that, you know, that he's healthy, you know, that you at least start with a fairly clean bill of health, or you at least are aware of any health issues. But yeah, so, okay, so we'll come back around to that in just a second. So let me just run you guys through the process of when I go to look at a horse that's for sale, okay?
Can you do, yeah, well, can you do it in like a mock style, asking these two about their horses? If you were going to say you had a clientele that was experienced and maybe a first time horse owner,
Okay,
and you're trying to represent both of them, and you're going to look at these two horses,
okay,
kind of walk through the questions you might ask them.
yeah, let's do it. All right. I'm coming to look at both of your horses. What are you talking about? All right, let's see, let me put this down. Okay, so let's say going to look at these two horses, and like he said, I'll pretend like I've got an experienced rider and an inexperienced rider with me, okay? And I'm trying to figure out which one of these horses, maybe both of them, you know, each one fits one rider or the other. So first things first, if the horse is papered, right? If we're not, so gray means that the horse doesn't have registration papers, okay? If the horse is papered, then I would like to see those papers, and I will let the buyer know that before I get there, okay? Because those might be buried in a file cabinet somewhere. But if the horse is papered, I'd like to see the papers and, if possible, even the Coggins. And I'll tell you why. I want to look at the papers and the Coggins and the horse and make sure that that all matches up, right? Because if the papers say this horse is an 8-year-old gelding, and my Coggins say this horse is a 14-year-old gelding, or if the markings on the Coggins don't match the markings on the horse, I don't want to waste anybody's time, because you misrepresented something, and unless you can give me a really solid explanation, you're probably going to hit the road, right? Okay, that's a real quick, easy way to let's just cut to the chase of making sure that the horse I'm looking at is the horse that you said it was. Okay, so if it's papered, it's not papered, you know, Coggins works too, because all the markings are drawn on the Coggins, the age, the sex, all of that. I just want to make sure that the horse we came to look at is the horse that's standing in front of me. Okay, I wish it wasn't that way, but that's just the nature of the beast, right? So first things first, I'd like to look at that. I don't make a big deal out of it. I don't want anybody to be hostile. I just, you know, like, hey, do you have those registration papers? Can I take a look? You know, that's all you got to ask. You know, just, you know, can I see those? And, you know, and I just say, you know, may I just take a look at that? And then I just compare, you know, I compare the horse's markings, the color, the age, make sure everything kind of matches up correctly, okay? All right, next, probably number one is I'm just gonna be an observer. I'm gonna be observer of how the horse is handled, how the horse behaves, because there's a lot of physical things, little detail things that are more forgivable if the horse's personality, behavior really matches the needs of the rider, right? So let's say for my inexperienced beginner rider, I'm looking at, this guy, they're saying this guy might be a really good fit. I'm gonna look at the way that he leads around, how they lead him out of the barn, how he's standing tied, if he's standing tied. I'm just gonna be an observer. I'm gonna watch, I'm gonna look for, just something that's quiet, calm, that is patient, right? I'm gonna look to see if when the owner leads him down the driveway, if she gets drug over here to the grass. All right, not to say that that's something that can't be, fixed or, something like that, but it's something to take note of, right? I'm gonna look when I walk up to him, if I'm a new person, I smell new, might sound new, all those kind of things. If I walk up to a horse and he blows and kind of gets like this and backs up a step and looks at me like, whoa, who are you? All right, that's going to give me an indication about his experience, his personality, his worldliness, right? So I'm an observer, first things first. Typically, I might walk up and just pet the horse, but mostly I'm just going to kind of stand back here. One, for my safety, okay? Because somebody might think that their horse is really broken, quiet, and is that child-proof, bomb-proof kind of thing that they advertise, but that may not be what I consider safe and child-proof and all of that. So maybe I'm just going to, give him space, be safe first. So I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, all right, he seems very quiet, right? I mean, he's here, strange environment. I walk up to him, he's just like, hey, who are you? Not a big deal. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, okay. And number one, he looks pretty healthy. He looks like he's been taken well care of. His feet are, freshly shod. He's been trimmed. His coat looks good. He's in a good weight, not in a super fit weight, which tells me that maybe he's not getting worked every day, but he's in a healthy weight. And then I'm probably going to ask questions about this horse's experience. So going with kind of the age of the horse, how, what's he done? What's his life story? Where'd you get him from? Where'd that person get him, from, if you know? Has he been out and seen a lot of the worlds? If you're looking for a trail horse to go like trail ride in the Smoky Mountains a bunch, if you're an intermediate to beginner rider, you want a horse that's gone and trail ridden out and about a bunch. It's one thing for a horse to trail ride around the farm every day. It's another thing for a horse to have regularly gotten in the trailer, gone place new, and trail ridden there. That they've done that and they've experienced that. So I just want to know a lot about his experience and what kind of training he has. I don't have any. No, I don't. I'm sorry. So I'm going to ask about the horse's experience and training. And then I'm going to tell the seller what I'm looking for. I'm going to talk a little bit about, hey, this is what, and I might, let's say I've got the inexperienced rider here with me, I might go, you tell them what your experience is. And if the seller is a fairly decent, genuine person, they're going to probably know pretty quickly if you are a good fit for that horse, because they know that horse better than anybody else does, right? And so I want to go ahead and just kind of, and then if we get kind of through those preliminary things and it's like, all right, yeah, I think this really might work. Now let's get to the nitty gritty, let's watch you ride it. Let's watch it work. Let's see if all of these things that, have been promised and talked about hold true. I can't tell you how many times somebody comes to look at a horse on a bad day. That does happen. That does happen. They're animals. They have good days and bad days. If the owner claims that the horse is having a bad day, and this is, this is just not, it's not the best it's ever ridden or anything like that, That's okay as long as the bad behavior is bad behavior I'm okay with. Does that make sense? So if I'm seeing the horse at what the owner considers to be bad, that may be okay as long as I'm comfortable with what bad is. So the owner, like, so for me and one of my like show horses, a bad day may mean that, we do cow horses and reining horses. A bad day to me may mean that he was a strider too late in his lead changes. A little sticky, just didn't want to do his flying lead changes quite as clean as he can. Or maybe he didn't stop as hard as he can today. That would be a bad day for me. So that bad day may be a lot different than bad day, buck me off bad day. Okay, so whatever the horse is that day, and then also it also works on the flip side of that, because if the owner says he's being awesome today, oh, this is a great day, this is he's being really good today, well then now you have a good idea of what a good day is, so what the horse at his best might be. So just listen to what the owner has to say, and in all things, if you'll kind of ask questions and then give space, the owner will give you a lot of information, right? They're trying to sell the horse to you. They will talk. They will talk, you listen, and you're going to find out a lot of information by that. So ask a question and then give that person room to talk. And you'll probably even get more information than you bargained for, right? And that to me is kind of the best way to find out a lot about the horse. Ask a question and then be quiet. Just give them time to just talk, And if it gets a little like, I'm just standing here looking at the horse, not saying anything, eventually that person's going to speak up and fill it in. They're going to find something else to say. And that can be information that makes me want to buy the horse even more, or it may be information that gives me some red flags, right? So that's just that's when you go to buy anything, that's my father-in-law does used car stuff, so that's just tips of the trade. Watching the horse ride, obviously that's a big range on what kind of horse we're looking for. If the horse is supposed to be kid broke, I would like to see a kid ride it. Plain and simple, right? I would like to see a kid ride it, because I can tell you right now, I've got half a dozen really, really awesome horses that ride like gold for me. And when I put a kid on them, they're turds. Okay, so I want to see, and I'll tell that, like if I'm shopping for a kid or even for a beginner rider, kind of in general, smaller rider, somebody with a smaller stature or somebody with less confidence, I'm going to tell the owner before I get there, hey, I'd love to see somebody who fits that ride this horse. You know what I mean? Like, so if you've got it, if you're saying that this horse is used to being ridden by kids, or it's coming up, from a kid, I'd like to see that kid ride it. Even if that means that it doesn't show it off to all its grand potential, we have to be realistic about what the horse's new job is going to be. Does that make sense? Hey, bud, yes. So blemishes, so like I'm looking at, what was this horse's name, Megan? Max. I'm looking at Max's front left foot here, and he's got like a divot in his hoof, okay, a little blemish, all right. Most horses are going to have blemishes somewhere. They're going to have scars, they're going to have, splints, blemishes in their hooves, things from past trauma, this, that, and the other. That's okay as long as I can get a pretty clear story about the healing of that and what it means for the horse's job now. So let's say you need a trail horse. He's just going to trail ride. Well, if he's going to trail ride and he's got a defect that maybe means, like let's say that the seller says, his hocks are fused. There's a big one. His hocks are fused. What does that even mean, his hocks are fused? Well, that means that he had some hock issues. In layman's terms, it means that he had some hock issues, and now the joints have fused, okay? Does that for a trail horse, probably not a big deal. Probably not a big deal at all. That would be something that would be okay. That would be something I'd talk more about in the vet check with the vet, confirm that they have fused and talk to the vet about what the horse's use is going to be. and what, he's going to be physically capable of. But for a trail horse, that's fine. Now, if you're wanting to go be competitive, that may be a little bit, more of a problem there. But little blemishes, where do you get that? How did that happen? Just ask questions. No, go ahead. Go ahead. How did he get that blemish?
No, he's had a massive abscess. in
Yes.
March.
Gotcha. That's what it looks like. It's growing out. Yep. Yeah, it looks like it's growing out there. Looks like it's growing out good. Yeah. So Megan kind of brings up the word abscess. That's kind of one of those things that as I'm just conversating with the seller, I'm going to ask about, has this horse had any history? Abscesses, colicking, choking, obviously foundering is a big deal, especially if you're going to look at a heavier horse or a pony. I just want to know if that horse has, if a horse has colicked more than 3 times, I call that reoccurring. That could be a red flag. We need to know why that horse has colicked multiple times. That horse has had colic surgery. Really need to know about that. Okay. And then obviously other, the things that are definite: Cushing's disease, laminitis, white line disease. Those are things that need to be disclosed. And that's why those vet records are so important, because if that stuff's going on, not to say that it's not unmanageable, not to say that that may not be the horse for you, but you need to be aware of that so that you go into this eyes open on what the treatment and the long-term care of a horse with a pre-existing condition like that is. Any questions about any of that kind of stuff, like health-wise, what's okay versus what's I'm going to turn around and walk away from? I would turn around and walk away more than anything from a horse that's been misrepresented, right? So if this horse had a bone chip in his hock, I would want to know about that. I don't want to know about that, not until we got to the vetted check. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get to a pre-purchase exam and then the owner all of a sudden be like, they're doing the flexion tests, and we'll talk about that in a second. They're doing flexion tests, and then all of a sudden they go, oh, you know what? We had him x-rayed last year and he does have a small bone chip. I want to know about that right out of the gate. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that I would like to know about. Any of those pre-existing conditions we talked about, if he's ever foundered, if he has Cushing's, Lyme's disease, laminitis, what's the other one? Forget about EPM, any neurological, PSSM. PSSM is a big thing, especially in quarter horses. It's polysaccharide something, yeah. I kind of like to think of layman's terms, kind of like diabetes for horses. What now? Yeah. Navicular. If there's any known navicular changes, we need to know about that. Sometimes those type of things people don't know about until you get to the pre-purchase exam and then you do x-rays. So let's say, all right, so flexions, coming back to that, you're in the pre-purchase exam. I like this horse. He's a good fit. We've made it to the pre-purchase exam. We're doing this. They do the flexions, and a flexion is where the vet is going to flex each of these horses' joints. He's going to do all the different joints. He's going to hold it up like this, essentially, putting pressure on each of the joints. And then he's going to hold it. We're going to time it. And then when he lets it go, you're going to trot the horse off as quickly as possible. And because he's put that pressure on that joint, when that horse moves off quickly, we're going to see if that horse is lame in that joint, right? If there's pain in that joint. And then from there, if a horse fails the flexion test, let's say this horse fails the flexion test in the right front knee and in the left hock, right? Well, then we can say, okay, let's take x-rays of those joints, because obviously he's not as healthy in those joints as he is in the other ones. So then we can take x-rays and then we can say, okay, we've got, a little bit of, scar tissue here, or maybe, a little bit of, whatever's going on. Nancy, to things that I definitely, big conformational faults. Usually we can rule those out with conformation pictures before we ever have to get in the car and go look at the horse. But if I get there and there's a big conformational fault, that means the horse can't do his job. that would be something that is just not gonna fit his job, you know, that's not gonna work.
Is there any way to identify vices that a horse may have, cribbing or roaring, or,
I mean, ask questions. So Matt asks if there's any way to identify vices that the horse may have, behavioral problems. Huh? Yeah, top teeth on a cribber. He comes out of the stall wearing a cribbing collar. You know, you'd be like, oh, he's a cribber. Okay. And you know, just being knowledgeable, that's kind of where having somebody go with you who knows a lot about horses. So like the horse if they say he's a cribber, well then you could be like, do you have trouble keeping weight on him? Because cribbers are known to, you know, sometimes have trouble keeping weight on him. If he comes, you know, if he comes out of the stall or you walk up to him and he's obese, right? If he's obese, I'm going to ask some questions related to that. What are you feeding him? How, like, you know, like some horses can stay fat on air, right? They can be in a dry lot with a handful of grain and be just fat as, you know, as all get out. And so I want to know, is he this fat because he's out on a big pasture 24/7, or is he this fat in a dry lot with a handful of grain every day? You know, those are kind of questions that I want to ask. If he's thin, you know, I want to know what, you know, what's his, and you don't want to thin the seller, but you want to be blunt, right? So how I'm going to phrase those questions, like if I go to look at a horse and I think the horse is thin, right? Like there's fit and then there's thin. And let's say this horse is a little bit on the thin side, not miscared for thin, but thin. I'm just going to, somewhere in there, I'm going to put it in my mind, hey, just ask about, what are you feeding? What's his turnout schedule? Because if that horse is that thin on full-time turnout with a scoop twice a day, I might have a hard keeper on my hands. You know what I mean? Something that we're really going to have to feed up. If it's in the middle of winter, that can really affect a horse's weight versus being the middle of summer. You know, we're done with spring and a horse is still thin and he's been out on grass. We need to know why that is, you know. But getting back to Matt's question about behavior, I mean, I'm always going to ask, does the horse have any bad habits? That's just a question I'm going to ask, you know, every single time. Does the horse have any bad habits? Yeah. And, you know, hopefully the seller's going to be honest and going to say, yeah, when you tie him up, if you leave him there for a while, he paws. Okay. You know, honesty is the best policy, right? Mostly, a lot of that information I'm going to get from observation, though, because if the horse leads well, ties or cross ties well, gets tacked up well, stands to be mounted well, rides respectfully, then I'm probably not going to have too many behavior issues. If there is one, it's probably going to be like a strange trigger kind of a thing, you know, like he doesn't like to be tied real short, you know, or he's really attached to his buddy. If his buddy leaves the trailer when you're out somewhere and he's tied to the trailer, he's going to scream his head off. You know, like just kind of one of those one-off, you know, little things that, I mean, they all have quirks. I would call it a quirk, you know, what's his quirks. But big behavior things, you know, that's going to be hard to know. You know, you just ask questions about it. It's going to, you know, but I mean, the biggest thing is I'm just going to look. And then obviously, I mean, if I'm going to look at a young, inexperienced horse, I'm going to expect different behavior than I'm going to expect from the kid broke horse that we went and looked at. But observation is your best tool. It's your best tool. Ask questions and observe. Step back and just watch owner interact with horse, rider interact with horse, and you're going to find out a lot about how the horse has been treated, how the horse interacts with people, if he's rude, if he's disrespectful, or, you know, if he's got, you know, some good ground manners, if he's, you know, and you can ask questions like that, like, do you ever groundwork this horse? You know, does he, you know, do you do groundwork with him? That, you know, how does he stand for the farrier? It's a big one. How does he stand for the farrier? Huh? Yeah. How does he haul? You know, not only just loading and unloading, but how does he stand on a trailer? You know, does he fall when he's on the trailer? Will he stand tied to the trailers? Those kind of things. So questions are gonna be your biggest thing. Like I said, if you get to that point where you're at the pre-purchase exam, the use of the horse, how much he's gonna be ridden, those are gonna be really big factors in what is acceptable, as far as wear and tear on the horse, and that just really ties back to the use. So if you're planning to go compete, you're gonna ride the horse 5-6 days a week, he's gonna go show many of the weekends of the year, and you need something that's fairly, sound and healthy. If he's gonna be a once a week trail ride horse, then the vet says, yes, he's sound for that purpose. He's sound for that purpose. He's healthy for that purpose. Maintenance, all right, that's a word that gets thrown around a lot. Megan and I were talking about that earlier. So, does require some maintenance, does require low maintenance, no maintenance. Those are words that you might even see in an ad. Basically, generally, what that is talking about is joint health. In general, when people talk about maintenance on a horse, they're talking about joint health, okay? Big animal, right? Big bunch of weight here. That's a lot of weight, a lot of impact, especially, considering what kind of job he has. A jumper is going to have, more joint wear and tear than a trail riding horse, just kind of generally. That also is, a lot of that plays into the horse's genetics, his breeding, and conformationally, how well structured he is anatomically. But there are 5-year-old horses out there who need maintenance, and then there are 20-year-old horses out there that don't need maintenance, right? So, and maintenance usually means, it could mean anything from joint supplements, like he needs a regular, what's it called? Yes, thank you. He needs like regular joint supplements, or maybe he needs some Previcox, when you go to the horse show, or when you're going to go for a long ride, maybe he needs a Previcox before you do that. 2 injections. And that's, I would ask, does he need any maintenance? I mean, the pre-purchase exam is going to tell you what's there and probably what needs to be cared for joint-wise, but you could always ask, does he require any maintenance? And that's what that means. Maintenance generally means joint care, anywhere from supplements up to injections. So to just keep those joints healthy.
He doesn't need maintenance on his joint, but he has a block in his eye.
Okay, that's a good one.
It's just
Yeah.
it's small. It's a small
Okay.
thing,
Mhm.
but it looks unsightly,
Yeah. Okay, so Megan says that this guy doesn't require any joint maintenance, but he has a blocked duct in his eye that has to be flushed routinely. So that'd be something good for a prospective buyer to know. Some other kind of like that, kind of like random things. Sometimes, like if you're going to look at a gelding or something like that, their sheath health, like you could go and look at a gelding and then be like, you need to be routine about cleaning his sheath. That could be something that would be good, as a seller and a buyer, that'd be good to know, because some people are like, yeah, once every 2 years, some horses need it more frequently or else they have problems. UTIs in the mare, urinary tract infections, that could be a reoccurring thing that happens that you need to be, aware of, and that would be something good for a seller to disclose for you to know about. Any questions about health, soundness, that kind of thing?
One of the things we mentioned about was a walk-away thing on a personal level.
Okay, so Megan says, like, we were talking about, like, what's something that you just walk away from? She says bad feet. That can be true. I mean, it's hard to get away from bad feet. If a horse has bad feet, he's got bad feet. A good farrier can work wonders. Yeah, a good farrier can be a superhero. But that to me kind of goes into like big conformational faults. It can be hard to know if the condition of a horse's feet, how much they can be fixed. They could be fixed 100%, and that horse, like you could spend 6 months of rehab farrier work and have a horse that goes barefoot the rest of his life, or it could be a never-ending nightmare. That's is a case by case kind of a thing. There's no rules about that. There's no really way to tell. If the horse has bad feet, if they're crumbling, if the vet points out something about the horse's feet, you know, things that I look at, like when we're talking about like conformationally soundness of the horse, I'm going to look at the depth of the horse's soles and of his heels. So I'm going to pick up his feet if I deem that the horse is safe for me to pick his feet up, and I'll ask the owner first, may I pick his foot up and look at it? I'm going to look at the general health of the horse's foot. The frog, you know, if the frog is all like caved out, that could be an indication of the horse battling thrush frequently. So I'm going to look at the bottom of that horse's hoof, and just for general health, I want to see how much heel the horse has. And then I'm probably going to step back and look. So bad shoeing can be as detrimental as good shoeing can be a lifesaver, right? So if I step back and look at a horse and I'm like, God, this horse doesn't have any heel, right? So like when I look at the back of his hoof, if it looks like the coronary band is just on the ground, he's got no heel, okay? If I look at him and I go, he has no heel, but when I look at his legs, so like if he's squared up, hey baby, back up just a little bit. So if this horse is squared up so that I'm getting a good look at his weight balanced over his feet, if this horse is squared up and I look at his hooves, and yes, he has no heel, but the angles in his leg are pretty correct. So like what I mean by angles is that when I look down this horse's leg, if I look at the angle right here from his fetlock through his pastern, if I look at this angle, and these angles are pretty correct, but the horse is kind of on his heels, that may be something that with some corrective shoeing we can fix. That may just mean that the farrier has got too much toe run out in the front. We need to back the toe up so that the heel can build, okay? That's where having somebody experienced with you can help. You know, they can see those kind of things. If I look at this, if I look at this part of this horse right here, and I'm looking at this fetlock and pastern and things, and this horse is long through here, and he's kind of out in front, and he's on his heels, it's going to be hard to get away from that, because that is conformationally how that horse is built. So there's a lot of things about that that are case by case basis, you know, and how all that might play out. Any other questions about horse health? Pre-purchase exams, anything like that?
What is reasonable to ask from the buyer's perspective about a trial period?
All right, so Matt's asking about trial periods. Usually permissible if the horse is local. So if it's a local private party sale, then trials are, you know, not an unusual thing to ask for. Usually if it's not somebody that I know, I'm just gonna, that was tricky. Okay. If I know the person and I know the facility that they're going to, I will release the horse under a contract, under a written up contract that says that if anything happens to this horse in your care, you're responsible financially, right? For a week. It's, you know, a week is about as long as I think, you know, somebody needs to go try a horse. If it's somebody I know. If it's not somebody I know, then I'm going to ask, I'm just pretty much going to say, come ride it. We come back, you know, you can ride it as many times as we need to, you know, until you're sure. Now, every once in a while you get somebody who comes and rides the horse 15 times and still doesn't know if they like it or not. If that's the case, then, you know, it's like, all right, let's, you know, decide, you know, and usually then I just, you know, I'm just say, you know, I need to represent this horse to other potential buyers. You know, are you seriously interested or not? But there's no written rules about trials. Trials can be tricky. Obviously, there's some inherent risk to that because, you know, if the horse goes somewhere and doesn't come back to you in the same condition that he left, then that can get into a sticky situation. Typically, we don't, you know, that's a, there's no rules. There's no rules about that. That's good. Yeah. I mean, there's no rules about that. I mean, there's a lot of barns in the area that if another trainer called me and said, hey, I got somebody who's interested, that horse can come over for a week. And I'm going to say, yeah, let me send you over something and sign it, you know, and that horse can go over there and be tried for a week. that takes relationships. That takes trust. That takes knowing that their reputation is going to hinge also on that agreement, you know, because they don't need something bad. They're going to handle that horse with kid gloves. So there are really no rules about that. That can be tricky. All right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Megan said commissions. All right. If you are using a trainer, equine professional to shop with you, right? If you have a trainer, there could be commissions. Personally, I don't like to handle any money. I like to, like, let's say Megan is my client and we go to shop for horses together. I'm not going to trade money with other, I'm not going to get into the money. I'll let her pay me personally, whether I'm selling a horse for her or we're buying one. Not everybody does it that way. You can ask, most definitely, to just be like, can we keep the commission keep that between us? Just to keep things from getting into gray areas, if you will. So in commissions, they can range, that's a very personal thing. Standard commission, standard commissions for most, I think it can vary a little bit by the discipline that you're in, but standard commissions for us is 10%. To sell a horse, or if we're going to be actively like helping you buy the horse, which means that we're going to be looking at ads. We're going to be looking for a horse, looking at ads, talking about videos and pictures, calling, setting up appointments, going with you to appointments, all that kind of thing. So, but commissions, also if you're going to look at a horse and you're getting the vibe from the trainer who's representing the horse, they're being pushy, just keep that in the back of your mind. Keep that, common sense kind of a thing. Keep that in the back of your mind. I get a lot of questions about horse traders. Can you trust a horse trader? It's a horse trader. I think that there are some people out there whose livelihoods depend on them moving horses, and they're good at what they do, and they're honest and they're reputable. I also think there's people out there who are not honest and they're not reputable, and they got that horse out of an auction a month ago and fed it, and they've never ridden it, and they're selling it to your kid. They have no idea if it's going to kill your kid or not. So with that, I would say stick to ones like a personal recommendation from somebody you trust, to go to a horse trader. I think that gets bandied about a lot. That could just be somebody who just deals a lot in horse sales. But the biggest thing about commissions, I think, is just to make sure it's all out in the open. That's what I like. I would like, I just want to be out in the open with my clients about it. I want to have an agreement before we ever even begin the buying process. I want an agreement, and I don't like to trade money, trainer to trainer. I'd rather it just all stay, you pay me for my part, that owner pays them for that part. Just keeps everything black and white, keeps the money paper trail a little bit cleaner, if you will. That makes sense. One more thing that I want to talk about is, let's say we've looked at these guys, we've watched you guys ride them, we've ridden them, everything seems like it's a good fit. I've asked all these questions. I've asked questions about their experience, their training, their life story, their health. I've talked about their routine. Okay, I'm gonna ask a lot of questions about a horse's routine, because I think, like I talked about at the beginning, that's so important. I see a lot of people get into this trap of they buy a horse who's living this life and they put him into this life, and he's not the same horse. That's a big thing, a common thing that happens. Okay, so when I go to look at a horse, I'm going to ask about that horse's routine. How many hours of the day is he out? How big is the field? Is he out in? How many other horses? Are they geldings and mares? Just geldings. How long, does he have a buddy? Has he been at this farm for 15 years with the same buddies that he's had all of his life? Okay. How many times does, obviously stalling, not stalling, is he used to being up in a stall? Does he just come into the stall and eat and then go back out? Because a horse that comes into the stall, eats his dinner, and then goes right back out, and you want to take him to a boarding facility where he's only going to get to go out 4 hours a day, that's a big adjustment, real big adjustment, physically and mentally for that horse. I'm going to ask about his workload. Do you lunge him before you ride him? Does he normally stay out, or do you get him out of the stall and get on him and go? You know, or is he a pasture pony who, you know, gets up? Because if a horse is out in the pasture 24/7 and you get him up and ride him, that may be a very different horse than the horse who's been in a stall all night and you get him out at 7 o'clock the next morning and go riding, especially on a cool morning, right? You may join the Libizoners. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions about that horse's routine. What he gets fed. Is he getting alfalfa? Is he getting, you know, just a standard, you know, regular protein grain? Is he getting some kind of high protein sport horse grain? How much hay he's getting, you know, all those kind of things. And then I need to consider the adjustment period. Okay. So we buy a horse. Okay. What's his regular routine, Megan? How much of the day is he out? He lives out. Okay. Okay. He gets some grass hay. All right. So he lives what I call the best life, right?
Yes, totally
The best life. All right. So if this guy, so he's really calm and easygoing. Okay. If we got him home and he'd been living out, we put him in a stall. Everybody else in the barn's getting 2 flakes of alfalfa morning and night. They're getting sweet feed twice a day. They're getting 2 hours of turnout and a ride. Okay. That's going to be a really big change of environment and routine for this guy. Okay. He may handle that great. He may be like, whatever. Or he could find a whole lot of energy he never knew he had, right? So I always want to know what the horse's routine is and then either try to match that routine or be aware of the differences that the new routine is going to cause. Okay. If you get a horse or already changing environments, that applies a little bit more to a horse that's a home. So like if you go and buy a horse who's been owned by the same owner for multiple years, he's been on the same property and they don't haul him very often. Okay. He gets a bigger adjustment period at his new home than the horse show horse who lives in a different stall every 2 weeks, right? He gets, you know, he's going to get because that's a big adjustment for this guy. Real big adjustment. Like you're taking him from his home, his established home with his established buddies, and you're upending his world. So he's going to get a couple of weeks to settle in. And I'm going to expect him to probably holler at the fence. I'm going to expect him to be maybe a little pushy on the ground. Not to say that I'm going to let him run me over, but I'm just going to expect him to be, you know, adjusting, nervous, a little different maybe, you know, maybe not as quiet and as easygoing as he was. So those are just the adjustment period is a really important thing. And if, like we talked about the whole like workload that a horse is under, we talked about this like with a ranch horse, you know, like, oh yeah, he's broke to death. Well, of course he's broke to death. You travel 15 miles a day on him, you know. That, you know, you just want to take those things into consideration. And you want to plan, not to say that that horse can't become the horse that only gets ridden once a week. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you better plan for an adjustment period and a transitional period, and you may have a different acting horse in the new routine than where he came from. So the adjustment period, that's a big one. That's a big one. And that's where a lot of people feel like they have buyer's remorse. You know, they get that horse home and he's just not the horse they went and tried. Like we went and tried him 3 times. We rode him 3 times and he was a perfect gentleman. And then we get him here and he's here for a week and he's nutso. Well, let's look at the environmental factors. Let's look at the routine, what we've changed, and see if we can pinpoint maybe how we can help this horse adjust. Maybe he needs to work more. Maybe he needs a little less of that, you know, that good rich grass that he's not used to having, or that alfalfa hay. You know, he's used to eating a round bale of cow mix hay. You know, maybe he wasn't quite ready for that alfalfa. But so the adjustment period, that's a big one. And that's one that I really press people to be understanding of. And try to, you know, remember that, you know, anytime it's a big transition. It's a big transition and it's an animal, you know, and he's got feelings about that. So any questions about that? Yes. I think that's really personal on the horse professional that you're dealing with. Ours is 10% and 10%. It's, you know, just kind of straight across the board. There are a lot of hours put into marketing a horse, and there's a lot of hours put into looking for horses. Possibly even more for looking for a horse, surprisingly, because you don't know how many you're going to have to look at until you find the right one. Yeah, like real estate. Yeah. So we charge same commission on both sides of that. Yeah, absolutely. What else, Matt?
Um, I think.
Oh, what were you saying, Megan?
Do you have a preference for like a first-time horse, mares or geldings?
So Megan's asking mares versus geldings for, you know, like a more inexperienced somebody. Most people prefer geldings because they don't have as many hormones as a mare or a stallion has. A mare can be as hormonal and as edgy as a stallion can. So that's why most beginner people do prefer geldings. Like to put it this way, we own a boarding facility. We have 50 horses on the property. We have 5 mares. 5 mares. And then we have some personal brood mares. They don't count. You know what I mean? But of the boarding horses, we have 5 mares out of 50. Everybody else is a gelding, right? I think some mares are hard to handle, especially when they're in heat. They can be, you know, they can be hard to handle. And one of the biggest things I think that you have to remember, if you're talking about mares and stallions, we're talking about full-fledged hormones, okay? They have their full hormonal system in place, okay? They haven't been altered. Because of that, their mind is a lot of time, and this is kind of running into another tangent here, but I'll talk about it for a second. So their mind is on horse society, if you will. If that makes sense. Their mind is on like social horse things all the time. So in the wild, the stallion is the protector of the herd, right? The mare, the boss mare, as they call it, the lead mare, she is the leader of the herd. She makes the decisions about where they're going to go to get water, where they're going to stop and graze, where they're going to go have their foals, et cetera, when it's time to move on. That's the boss mare's job. So mares can be a little more dominant than a gelding can, okay? Because a mare is constantly thinking about where is her place in a herd. And if you are part of her herd, then she's wondering, am I the boss mare or are you? Who's on top of this deal? Does that make sense? So, you know, like everybody kind of has this generalization that stallions are, you know, they're top. That's not quite the way it works in the horses world, in horse psychology. So a dominant mare can be just as much of a handful as a stallion can. That is true. Now, are there a ton of great laid back, quiet mares? Yes, there are. And if it's a mare and if it's a fit for you, it's a fit for you. Don't let that stop you from that being the one. You know, that's fine. But there is, you know, because they have all their hormones, they're going to come in and out of heat. That's going to alter their behavior. And, you know, so that is just something to consider. And then it's also where are you going to board? Do they allow mare and gelding mix in the fields? That's something else to consider. You know, a lot of people are like, I don't want to have to look for a place who has either just a mare lot or that allows mares and geldings in their pastures. So.
Any other questions for Rachel?
I don't know what time it is.
7:40.
All right. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yes. Okay. Okay. And what does his weight look like? Is his weight good or poor? Okay,
That looks fine. And he's gonna be skinnier because he's 32.
yep, older,
And you can see his ribs.
okay.
Doesn't look like he's ready to go business to the alpha class. I mean, he's, you know, the back
Gotcha.
is fine.
Okay,
But I just, but that was, you know, probably last summer, you know, the back's been out.
okay, and seeing his weight.
So I can't decide how much to feed him based on his weight, because I'm not sure how much he weighs.
Okay, well,
16 hands.
okay. That probably is gonna be more about, do you have other horses or just him? Okay, that probably it's going to be more about his age and his ability to absorb nutrients than it is about how much he'll eat. Does that make sense? So like you could feed him less of a high quality senior feed, and if that sticks to his bones, so to speak, then a lot of a lower quality, okay? And then you also have to think about his teeth. The biggest thing with an older horse like that is just making sure that he's getting his teeth checked, I would say at least twice a year to see how they are, because the biggest thing is that if he can't break down what he's eating in the grass and everything, then he can't absorb the nutrients. So to me, how much to feed the horse, yeah, sure, that we could get into all kinds of poundage versus weights and all of that. I mean, yeah, to do that.
We've got a lot of nutrition coming up.
Okay, so they said that they got some nutrition classes coming up. That may be,
I know, but I was trying to go ahead and resolve it.
I know, trying to figure it out. Yeah, yeah. I say feeding whatever makes him fat and happy, right? Okay. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm just gonna get my first horse.
Okay.
One, not having another horse.
Okay, at your own property? They're social animals. I'll start by saying that. That's pretty much baseline. They are social animals. I like the idea of having a buddy of some kind. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be another horse. Even if it was, you know, a mini or a donkey or a goat or a pig or, you know, something. They are social animals. Cows, yeah, they're not. Yeah, a couple cows with them. Totally fine, can be done, meet his social needs by keeping him busy, right? So lots of groundwork you could do, set up an obstacle course. So to me, what would be fair to the horse would be to just balance the fact that he isn't getting his social time with other horses by giving him social time with you. Does that make sense? So you become his herd. So it always kind of pulls at my heartstrings to see a horse out in the field by himself who never gets messed with. Right? Lonely existence. But if you're going to mess with him and you're going to be his herd and his leader and you're going to give him that social, you know, the social interaction that he needs, then I think he'll be fine. Yeah. 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 Just, you know, a buddy. Something, you know, when you're not around, something, because they are social animals and that's a big part of their, you know, mental health is, you know, having a buddy around. So, yeah, absolutely.